Well, the world is having to change its behavior. Experts say we have to keep our distance as COVID-19 continues to spread. And of course, it sounds easy now, but at least for some countries.
Yeah, for some countries it does sound easy, but for others it's a total culture shock. Let's get some details. Reporter Michael Marillier is working on the numbers. Michael, experts talk about circles, which is basically the limit on personal space.
Yeah.
How do they work?
Yeah, so basically what they're saying is that people have limits, Nandi, in terms of how close people should stand or sit when they are talking or when they're in the same room, for instance. And people generally will have a circle for family and friends, they'll have a circle for connections or acquaintances, and then they'll have a circle for strangers as well. And this is becoming increasingly important in the age of coronavirus. And we're going to look at a study of different countries around the world. This was conducted actually before COVID, so really interesting to see the different preferences that people have in different countries around the world. Some of them may actually surprise you. Let's focus first of all on Italy, and this is a country where people really like to be close to one another. So in terms of family and friends, they're quite comfortable with a family member being just 40 centimeters away. In terms of connections or acquaintances, less than 70 centimeters away. And a total stranger, Nandi, less than a meter, 93 centimeters. So the Italians are all about la familia and having that close connection with other people. A very similar story for the Greeks. Let's take a quick look at those numbers for the Greeks. So 45 centimeters in terms of friends or family, around about 68 centimeters for connections. And in terms of strangers, we're talking 91 centimeters. So again, less than 1 meter for perfect strangers. Really interesting that. Let's take a quick look at England. We often think of the English as being those people with a stiff upper lip. They don't really like to be friendly. Well, these stats paint a slightly different story. 55 centimeters in terms of friends and family, and in terms of total strangers, again, less than 1 meter, 99 centimeters for the English. So some interesting stats in terms of the different cultures around the world.
Now, Michael, you've also looked at both China and Nigeria.
Yep.
What they do have in common is that they're both densely populated.
Yep.
What do we see there just in terms of circles?
Yeah, so in terms of the preferences, Tamila, actually these countries are somewhere in the middle when it comes to this particular survey. Let's focus on those numbers. So for Nigeria, we're talking about 60 to 61 centimeters for friends and family, about 80 centimeters in terms of casual acquaintances, and more than a meter in terms of strangers. We're seeing a similar situation in China. Let's focus on those numbers. What the researchers really say here is because these countries are so densely populated, people have actually learnt to find a space for themselves whenever they can. So because they're often in crowded spaces, they try to exercise social distancing as a matter of course. I suppose it's because they're so used to being around people. Whenever they get a chance, they look for a little bit of space. I mean, look in China, for instance, the average in terms of strangers, 116 centimeters, so much, much further than when a country like Italy, for example. So some interesting stats coming from the Chinese. I want to focus on two other countries very quickly, guys. First of all, Hong Kong. This is interesting because Hong Kong was rocked by a bird flu in the late 1990s, and it seems that may have influenced the culture when it comes to social distancing. Take a look at that. For friends and family, 70 centimeters away, and in terms of strangers, again, more than a meter, 116 centimeters. And let's take a quick look at Saudi Arabia. This is a country that was also affected by an outbreak, the MERS outbreak, around about 10 years ago. In fact, it was the epicenter of that particular viral outbreak. So it seems they've learned some lessons from that. It's also a very conservative culture, a conservative Muslim country, so that might explain why they are so nervous about being close to one another. Take a look at that. Friends and family, 97 centimeters. That is a really big circle, guys.
Michael, now the survey didn't look at South Africa, but I've got a feeling you've got a solution for this.
We have a solution. We've put this out on Twitter, guys. Let's bring up our question very quickly. We posted it about 45 minutes ago. We're asking the question, South Africa, where was your circle for strangers before COVID-19? Was it nose to nose? Was it arm's length? Or was it as far as possible. Cast your vote on Twitter. We're already getting some fascinating responses. I asked Nandi and Tumelo about their circles a little bit earlier. I'm sure they will reveal them eventually, but in the meantime, cast your vote on Twitter and let us know what you think, South Africa. How big is your circle?
It's interesting. I mean, when we talk about strangers and circle, especially given that in South Africa, you know, with Ubuntu, you shake hands, sometimes you give hugs. There's that personality. So it feels impersonal right now. Very impersonal.
Very impersonal. Thank you very much, Michael Marillier. I think my thing with strangers is at least arm's length. I wouldn't say as far as possible. I think arm's length, not nose to nose, definitely.
No, nose to nose, definitely not. But I know that a handshake would be possible when you're speaking, you know, you have that. I know with even family members right now, we're used to usually hugging when we see each other for weekends, but now it's just like, we'll do that after all of this.
And after the first few months were okay, but after a while you start to miss that connection and that closeness. You actually start to feel physically drained from not being able to hug people.
Absolutely.
Because it's a need, it's an important human need that we have. So
it's interesting you raised that, because I was at a funeral just this past weekend, and again, you want to comfort family members, you want to comfort loved ones, you want to show that it's going to be okay through a hug, you know, through touching them or holding them, but you can't do that. You have to always, you know, keep your distance and make sure that you are taking every precaution. So this is our reality.
A very, very interesting conversation there from Michael Marillier.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Michael, for that.